Did you know that according to the CDC, 30% of antibiotics prescribed to children are considered unnecessary? The overuse of antibiotics, the misuse of antibiotics, not only is going to lead to some short-term and certainly some long-term consequences, which we will get into for each individual kiddo, but it's actually a huge deal for all of us, all our families. Because it's been going on for so long, it's now leading to antibiotic resistance, right? Superbugs, fueling of all of these chronic diseases in kids that are getting more and more noticeable, and the numbers are drastically rising. And it's really setting the stage for some long-term health consequences. And so as a parent, if you have ever experienced the helplessness, the frustration, the lack of sleep that comes along with that, of watching your child suffer through another ear infection or another persistent cough, or just one of those kiddos who is sick every time someone at school gets sick or every time daycare gets sick, they always bring it home and they get sick and then they get you sick or they get their siblings sick, whatever it may be, this video is for you. We are going to dive into the science a little bit. We're going to look at the neurology. We're going to look at how the gut and the immune system and the nervous system are all super connected, and also into see if we can find a little bit more of an answer to get you a quick fix, right? Because we understand when you're in that situation, you want the quick fix, right? We all want the quick fix. But, and sometimes antibiotics, because of that, can sound like a good solution. But we're going to see if we can get you an answer that doesn't have any of those negative side effects that using antibiotics chronically often does. Okay? I'm Dr. Beau. I'm a pediatric chiropractor, and if you are one of those parents of kiddos, just like we have so many in the office, who want to protect their children's health, who are concerned about the potential dangers of antibiotic overuse, and have wondered if there are some of these long-term effects on that developing gut, on that developing immune system, on that developing nervous system, this video is for you. We're going to dive in here as I transition. I'm going to dive deep into the dangers of antibiotic overuse, and explore how it fits into what we call the perfect storm. This perfect storm of all these different factors that can derail your child's neurological development. And we're going to talk about, like I mentioned, that gut-brain connection and how the nervous system, immune system, inflammation, it's all linked together. And how the overuse and misuse of antibiotics plays a role in that, in terms of disrupting that very delicate balance between the gut, between the immune system and the nervous system, and thus contribute to everything we see rising in kids and what we see in the office all the time: autism, ADHD, anxiety, autoimmune, even obesity, right? And so one of the most common reasons a kid would get antibiotics is due to an ear infection, right? It's something that we work with kids and families with all the time in the office via our natural drug-free methods. But it certainly is the most popular in terms of, when you keep getting these ear infections, you go to the pediatrician and you probably get antibiotics. The issue with that is that a couple years ago, actually a long time ago, the American Academy of Pediatrics created a new guideline in terms of their recommendations for childhood ear infections. And what it recommends is what we call a wait and see approach, rather than immediately going to antibiotics. Now, typically I hate when the medical system or pediatricians say, hey, let's just wait and see, or maybe it's just a phase, right? When we're working with colicky babies or constipation or sleep challenges or gross motor challenges, no, we don't want to wait and see. It's not just a phase. We want to get in there and improve the nervous system and get that kid thriving as soon as possible. But since most ear and respiratory infections are caused by underlying issues with subluxation, nervous system imbalance, restrictions in movement and drainage of the eustachian tubes and lymphatic system, and typically viruses instead of bacterias, in this specific case, I am all for the wait and see approach. But how many conventional pediatricians, urgent cares, emergency rooms are really kind of following that guideline, right? Realistically, I don't think there's a ton. Sadly, it's still a major problem, because when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? When they're kind of regimen or their go-to is to give an antibiotic. So that's what they're going to give, right? They don't really have a whole lot else that they can do. And so way too many kids, especially infants and toddlers, are continuing to get prescribed these dangerous antibiotics over and over and over and over again. And like we mentioned, they have a host of both short and long-term side effects. So I want to then now transition to get into the actual science behind all of this. And the first thing I want to talk about is the disruption of the gut microbiome and that gut-brain connection. More and more science comes out every single day showing how important and how very connected our gut and our brain are, right? Incredibly connected. And antibiotics are going to disrupt the gut microbiome, which plays a huge role in digestion, immune system, overall health, and again, that nervous system health too, right? That gut-brain connection. And so when this is disrupted, the scientific term for it is dysbiosis, right? We're disrupting what's going on in the gut there. It's been linked to a ton of different health issues, right? Inflammatory bowel disease, allergies, asthma, obesity, autoimmune conditions, neurodevelopmental disorders, autism. The gut is huge. Gut health is huge. And so when we are constantly putting antibiotics into a kid's system, not only is it disrupting the immune system and the brain and the nervous system, but it's also really wreaking havoc in that gut. And all three of those are so intimately connected. So once it's into the gut and disrupting the gut system, now all of a sudden it transitions into the brain and the vagus nerve. So once those antibiotics disrupt the gut and the microbiome function, now all of a sudden we get an imbalance in what's called neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters, serotonin and dopamine are the biggest ones, but they do exactly what you think, right? Neurotransmitters, they're made in the gut, these ones specifically, serotonin and dopamine, and they transmit messages for the nervous system, right? And so a little tangent here, but when we talk about medications for ADHD or anxiety, things like that, right, they call it a chemical imbalance, which they're not incorrect, right? There is a chemical imbalance. In fact, we're in a world with tons of people walking around with chemical imbalances, but a neurotransmitter is out of balance, the chemicals, because of what's going on in the nervous system, right? If the nervous system is out of balance, so are the neurons or the nervous systems, the neurotransmitters, the chemicals, the hormones that are transmitting messages for the nervous system. Anyway, so when that happens, right, serotonin and dopamine, these neurotransmitters, are made and absorbed in the gut. And they are also super connected to the most important nerve in the body, which is that vagus nerve, right? And so if we're disruption in the gut, we have issues with the neurotransmitters, as well as this vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is in charge of things like resting, relaxation, digestion, immune system, regulation of the nervous system, regulation of inflammation, and so much more, right? The vagus nerve literally is the brain-gut-brain connection. So now that antibiotics get in, they disrupt gut function, negatively impacts what's called vagal nerve tone, which then automatically puts your kid into sympathetic fight or flight system, right? When that system just starts to run unchecked, because the vagus nerve is what is in charge of more of that parasympathetic calming, and they're supposed to balance each other out. But if you have low vagal tone because the gut is messed up, for lack of a better term, now all of a sudden that gas pedal starts to rev, right? And so now all of a sudden the body is full of tension, inflammation. That gas pedal also suppresses the overall immune response, right? So while we all work to keep our children healthy and prevent respiratory infections, ear infections, all that stuff, the truth is that getting sick, spiking a fever, it's a natural part of life, right? For all of us, but especially for children. And believe it or not, there's actually really long-term benefits to boosting and improving immune system function throughout life if you get sick, right? We want to get sick. In fact, when we have kids come in here, we like when they get sick only to see what that response is, right? If the nervous system responds well, it builds that memory or that immunity, and it responds better the next time. But if it responds poorly and we just throw antibiotics at it, it never really gets a chance to build that strength and that immunity. And so neurologically focused chiropractic care is going to enhance the function of the nervous system, which is what the system that controls the overall immune function, right? So it's going to reduce that tension and inflammation. It's going to enable the body to fight off infections more naturally. And these adjustments that we give stimulate the immune system. They stimulate the nervous system, and they help improve the motility and the drainage of the eustachian tube, sinuses, throat, and the entire lymphatic system. So this is what helps the body get that bacteria and viruses out of there faster, right? It prevents the buildup, and when things build up, then those opportunistic infections and inflammation start to build, and that's when they become chronic. So now all of a sudden your child can overcome cold, can overcome congestion, and can overcome any type of infection they may run into so much faster. And you have to remember too, there's also plenty of natural remedies that we love and we recommend. So it is important as parents to become empowered and to know that not every respiratory infection and childhood illness needs antibiotics, right? It just doesn't. And what makes it important is also important to know that these different safe, natural, drug-free, effective options like neurological-focused pediatric chiropractic care exist. So if you found this video helpful, hit the like button, share it with other parents who you think might share this, that you might need to get this knowledge as well, right? This empowerment in natural ways to support their child's health, right? We want to work together, and that's what we're all about here, is just getting this information to families so they feel empowered, and in this specific case, can boost their kids' immune system naturally, avoid antibiotics, and help make chiropractic care and natural remedies the first line of defense for future generations, as opposed to consistently going back to the antibiotics. So stay tuned. We've got lots of educational information coming about immune system, perfect storm, all the different things that we work with so many families here. So we will see you in the next video.